And to make everyone comfortable sharing their comments, a copy of the full rules are available at the door or by flagging down a staff member. If you'd like to make general comments today, we are accepting those both in person and on Zoom. Scott Corpany from our staff is going to moderate the Zoom meeting and will message you with any questions about your registration. Taylor Hill, another staff member, is going to be calling the names of those who wish to comment based on the order which we receive the names. So let's go to that point now. Taylor, please start with our first comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do not have anyone registered to speak to general comments.
All right, thank you. Is there no one in the room that is here to make a general comment? Okay, so we will move on to section B of our agenda, which is a public hearing. We are at public hearing item B1, a resolution regarding the CRA budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 24 through 25. And before we begin taking comments, Kate Warrett from Council Policy Staff will give us a short introduction.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
This is the annual true-up budget amendment for the CRA. Every year, the annual budget is conservatively estimated to approximate the amount of property tax that the CRA will receive as revenue. In the spring, the actual property tax revenue is confirmed. This is the annual true-up where the estimates are adjusted to match those actual amounts. A couple items included in this budget amendment include revenue adjustments totaling about $4.8 million, mainly interest, expenses associated with that, and moving $7.3 million to transition holding accounts to be considered for use in the fiscal year 2026 budget. Additionally, there is a transfer of about $1.8 million to the library as part of a tax increment receipt error that the CRA received. There is a follow-up briefing after the public hearing if you have any additional questions or comments, and then a motion sheet is provided in your packets for you to take action today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So this is the public hearing portion. We will be taking action in the next section, but for now, Taylor, please start with our first public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do not have anyone registered to speak to this item.
Mr. Chair,
All right.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion from Board Member Pui, second from Board Member Dugan. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. We're now on section C. C1 is a motion to take action on the same thing that we just discussed. Kate, we don't need another introduction or anything, do we? Okay, I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board adopt a resolution approving the Second Amendment of the fiscal year 2025 budget of the Salt Lake City Community Reinvestment Agency.
Second.
Okay, motion by Board Member Dugan and second by Board Member Lopez Chavez. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. We are now on section C2. This is a resolution for a partnership with NeighborWorks Salt Lake City for shared equity workforce housing. Tracy Tran and Brone Sabray are here at the table to walk us through this item.
Ooh. This is fun. Good afternoon, board. Brone Seabright, project manager with Tracy Tran, senior project manager. We are speaking on the NeighborWorks shared equity funding term sheet partnership. Okay, we have our presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, so in 2023, as part of the fiscal year 23-24 allocations, the board made a direct allocation of $2.1 million to a partnership with NeighborWorks Salt Lake. NeighborWorks Salt Lake is a community-based organization on the west side, and the purpose of this funds was to support a partnership for shared equity workforce housing. And more specifically, that includes 2 for-sale residential developments in the Poplar Grove and Fair Park neighborhoods, The source of these funds include the Housing Development Fund, $1.4 million, and the West Side Community Initiative Funds, $700,000. These sources of funds are also used for our competitive notices of funding availability, including our Housing Development Loan Program, Wealth Building Pilot Program, and ADU Financing Program. Next slide, please. So as part of this development and these two projects, NeighborWorks is establishing the NeighborWorks Salt Lake Community Land Trust. This is a independent nonprofit entity that they have set up to help own and manage the land under these developments. And they're going to be able to separate the ownership of the land from the homes to help preserve affordability, allowing owners to own or lease the properties without having to own the land underneath them. NeighborWorks set this up in 2022, and it will include a community advisory board component where residents will have the ability to help influence the direction of the community land trust. Next slide, please. So of the two projects, the first is the Maltaire Lanes project. This is in the Poplar Grove neighborhood. It is in the Transit Station Area Urban Neighborhood Zoning District, which allows up to 50 feet in height. NeighborWorks has proposed a 13-unit development of townhomes with parking, surface parking at the rear of the property. For this project specifically, NeighborWorks is requesting a waiver of the sustainability policy of the CRA. Next slide, please. And then the second project is the Stanbridge property. This one's a bit larger. The last one's about half an acre. This one's about an acre in size. This is in the Fair Park neighborhood. They're tentatively planning for 18 to 20 units of townhomes or condo units. And this is zoned RMF 30. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Brune. So CRA staff has drafted a term sheet that outlines the requirements, conditions to fund, and overall obligations, events of default, and remedies for funding for each of these proposed NeighborWorks projects. The term sheet includes a date of June 30th, 2027, in which the funds must be used to develop each project. And the full term sheet can be found within Attachment B of the memo. The following grants will be provided in the amounts listed in each of the projects subject to meeting the requirements and conditions to fund. So some of the requirements include that all units must be deed restricted to 120% AMI, and a minimum of 20% of the units must be affordable to households earning 80% AMI. It also requires at least 45% of the units in each project to have 3 or more bedrooms, and units must be developed, platted, and sold as individual units. The CRA would release the funds once each project has demonstrated the following: that sufficient sources of funding and financing to carry out the projects, the per unit cost does not exceed an amount that impedes affordability listed above, and the CRA subsidy cannot exceed 15% of the median sales price or $70,000 per unit. Also, the project must receive all the necessary approvals and permits through the city process, and evidence of CRA approval of a homeowner selection plan and tenant selection process. Additional obligations, events of defaults, remedies are also included to ensure that the projects are built and sold within certain timeframes and converts the grant to a loan upon an event of default. Next slide, please. Okay, and NeighborWorks, as Brian mentioned, is requesting a waiver of the CRA Sustainable Development Policy, which was adopted in 2021. And this is specifically for the Maltaire Lanes projects. All projects that receive CRA funds must meet the following. It must have a design to earn Energy Star score of 90 or more, or a corresponding estimated energy use intensity, or EUI value. An Energy Star score of 90 means that a building is more efficient than 90% of buildings of that similar type. It also must be 100% electric, and so there cannot be any on-site fossil fuel combustion. And they also must participate in Salt Lake City's energy benchmarking program. NeighborWorks Salt Lake is seeking a waiver of the policy, particularly the first 2 points. So the Energy Star score of 90 or the EIU score and the 100% electricity portions. NeighborWorks has stated that they designed the building to include natural gas prior to receiving the board's direct funding allocation, and redesign would add 3 to 6 months to the project schedule. We have also asked NeighborWorks to provide a design Energy Star score or an AUI score, just so that we have the information to see if they would meet it. They have not been able to provide that information as of today. So a waiver of the sustainability policy would set a precedent for new construction projects. If approved, this would be the first housing development to not meet this policy. Next slide. So before the board today, you can consider approving a resolution and term sheet authorizing the CRA staff to negotiate and execute funding agreements with NeighborWorks, subject to meeting conditions within the term sheet. And also as part of that, you'll want to consider whether or not you'd like to waive the sustainability policy for the Malterra Lanes project. And we do have NeighborWorks representatives here if there are any questions, but we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Board Member Dugan.
Thanks, Tracy. On the question on the 3 to 6 months delay, are the other funding streams impacted by that delay, or is it just the timeline on the actual construction of changing it from gas to electric?
Yeah, so I think they're in process of working out their additional funding sources, so I don't think it necessarily impacts those pieces, but the 3 to 6 months would be just redesigning the project. Does that answer your question?
Right. Well, I guess I could say is that can you start digging start the construction side of the house without the design of the HVAC system?
Yeah, I mean, I also don't understand that amount of delay for a townhouse project. I wonder, would it be appropriate to call up the applicant to see if they can help enlighten us on that?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
a clarifying question. We're talking that the applicant seeks a waiver for one of the two projects,
Two of the
correct?
three.
Two
Oh,
of the
sorry.
So
Two of the three conditions.
Two of the three conditions,
On
but
both
only
projects?
one of
One
the
of
two
the two
projects.
projects.
They can meet it
Okay.
on the
Only
second
on one of the
project.
projects.
So one of the okay. So
Which
one of the
project?
project is which one of the projects is located? The one that is closer to the freeway is the one that the applicant seeks a waiver. And if I remember right, that project, NeighborWorks started up, had this project, for years, and I believe it got. Again, I'm trying to remember, but it's been drawn and worked out throughout many years. So, but we're not talking about a waiver on the 800 West project. Okay, that's all I needed to know for now. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to come up and just sort of address that?
Not only would it, sorry, is this working? Not only would it kind of slow
Do you
down.
want to state your name for the record?
Sorry, my name is
Thanks.
Bryce Garner. I'm the CEO of NeighborWorks Salt Lake. Not only would it slow down the initial construction of the project, but we're trying to make these projects as affordable as possible in order to hit that 80% area median income level, right? And so by having to redraw and redo all of the designs, we're planning to break ground in the next 2 months. And so if we had to go back to the drawing board, go back to the architect and redo those plans, it would also add additional cost and increase the cost of the eventual home buyer. We're working on a razor's edge when we're talking about 80% area median income to be able to get people into homes and qualify at below 30% of their monthly take-home income. And so it's not just the delay in the construction, but also making it so that it's not affordable for workforce housing.
Thank you.
Is it
Joe?
fair to ask? I have a love-hate relationship with the 100% electric, mostly because I am thick, because I know what I'm doing in the kitchen, and I hate electric stoves. So is it fair for us to ask, like, if it's not 100% electric because there's gas stoves, it's very different to me. than if the dryer is going to be, and if we're going to do, traditional. I think the consumption level for me does influence a little bit what we're doing. Is it fair for us to ask that here?
Sorry, what's the question?
What's the function of the natural gas in the construction? Like how
Typically,
much
it'd be
of
the heating of the air.
is it the
would
whole
be
heating
one thing that's
apparatus?
the hardest.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that the case for your project?
Yeah, I think it's currently built to do natural gas for the heating for the
Furnaces.
We'd have to like redo the vents and some of that also for if we were to change over to fully electric.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
And
board
the,
members.
Just on the second question about the Energy Star ratings, are you concerned about that, the building not meeting those ratings at all, or is it just that the delay?
So we were trying to get an estimate of what the Energy Star usage would be, but the website that we went to doesn't have kind of national measures for townhouse developments. And then, we were trying to figure out an estimate, and it was kind of hard because we haven't recently built these units, and our architect, these are kind of new units for them as well, so we weren't sure what the energy usage would be, and we're still kind of working with that. We've been back and forth with Tracy here and trying to get to a number there, but we're not completely sure at the moment.
So I have to admit, I'm an architect, but I also don't know exactly how to get a project that's in design phase certified under that program. And it might just be that I haven't worked on that before, but is that something that we within the CRA have resources to? I know we adopted that policy, but is there anyone within our organization that can help with that, or?
We don't have anything like in-house to walk someone through that, but there are a lot of national sources that help with that. We did provide a list of a couple, and we can forward on some of those links. I think one is completed through like the Department of Energy, and they are free resources to help an architect through that process.
And is that something that, rather than waiving it, we could just ask for it to come back when you're further down the line, or is that something that must be a full waiver for that requirement? Maybe that's an applicant question.
Is that for me?
Yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing is that you haven't been able to get that analysis done,
Right.
Not that the project will not meet that.
We're not sure. I mean, it's not going to be 100% electric, right? There is still the natural gas usage, but we're planning to put Energy Star appliances into the project. We just haven't, been able to get that number just yet. We were asked for that about a week ago, and then kind of been back and forth trying to figure out what is the best mechanism for getting that number, and we just haven't gotten there yet. But
Okay.
we can keep working on it and get a number as we get this website that's a free resource. And again, if we had to go through a consultant, then we'd have to again add those additional costs into the total cost of the project as well.
Okay. I guess from a policy, from like a broader, higher level, I think it'd be good if you're willing to go through that process to try and do that, because to my knowledge, this is the first time we will have a townhouse project that will get CRA funding and with these requirements. Is that correct?
We did have one previous one, but they did rescind their funds because they didn't need our project, or our funds, but this was from last year's Housing
Okay.
Development Loan Program.
I think it'd be, even as a test case for us to know if those requirements that we have seen work fine for apartment buildings, if there's something about the policy that needs to change, because it's townhouses, it's totally a different building type. So I guess my preference would be, I understand the need to waive the all gas requirement, given how far you are in the design, but if we could request that you at least try to meet that other one, and if you need to come back, we need to waive that at some later date. Is that legally possible? I would imagine it is, if we waive the one requirement, but ask that one to.
I mean, it depends on how long it's going to take. If it's going to be another month, I mean, we're getting close to breaking ground. We would kind of like to know the capital stack that we're putting into the development.
Okay.
Yeah,
Board members.
just kind of one kind of comment. I appreciate the work, because I look at this project and go, this is a great community land trust. We're building wealth. We're allowing people to own a place, as inexpensively because the land is owned by the nonprofit. They're buying the land, they're buying the house. They can sell it with some restrictions, but they're gaining wealth. They're gaining home ownership, that responsibility. And these are two great projects in two great areas. My other side says, we have these requirements because if we do a waiver here, what says that we don't have constantly get waivers by the next developer and two more developers? Oh, I can't meet the Energy Star. Oh, I need, I can't do this, I can't do that. And everything has waivers. And the next thing you know, we have no programs that actually meet our sustainability requirements. So that's where I struggle with. And I like your question about, hey, let's press hard on the Energy Star score, because I can see that. I also see that the debate was on the sustainability side of the natural gas and the electric. So I'm torn, but I want to make sure that these projects move on because they have such a big impact to the neighborhoods and people who are living and purchasing, owning a home. So I'm still there, but I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, sorry, I do have one more question for you. Thanks. I know every time you. It's been kind of a long journey to get here. But I do think that because of the really unique needs that this project is addressing, I wouldn't say that I feel comfortable because I also don't want people to, I don't want other developers to come and ask for all of these other exceptions. I think that I'll say they're justified in this instance because of the uniqueness of this project, but it's definitely not something that I want to make a regular thing in terms of these exceptions. But I also just wanted to ask you, since this has been a really long process, I know that NeighborWorks has worked really hard to get us here. This is so important to fill this need. And just ask if there's anything else that, with these exceptions, you think that you'll be able to meet these requirements and finally make this happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think we won't be able to meet these requirements currently. That's why we're asking for the waiver. But
right, that's what I mean.
We want to get this work completed, right? We're also kind of sitting on, we don't know where tariffs are going to go. That's going to increase costs too. So if we push back another couple of months, it could also increase all of the costs. We have a builder that we're ready to sign a contract for, and if we wait more than a month, that might have to be, renegotiated as well.
Yeah.
And so like every delay kind of adds to kind of uncertainty about where, those eventual costs will be. And we are planning to do this for the next development, that development on 8th West and 3rd North, because we're just not as far along. We're just meeting with architects right now, and so we'll plan to get that 100% electrical and meet those Energy Star standards on that second development. We're just so close to the finish line on this one that to go back would kind of delay us significantly and possibly increase costs significantly because of everything else that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, so let me clarify. My question is, like, with these exceptions that you're asking for, and assuming that there aren't any other delays, which I don't want to see either, you're confident that we can make this work?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your hard work on this.
Thanks.
We are looking for a motion on this. Is there more discussion before we get to that point?
Mr. Chair. Yeah. So obviously, it's one of those things that I'm torn to trying to support good partners on creating affordable housing for ownership or for in the West Side and in areas that needed that attention and areas that an organization has been very invested on, and it really is a tough spot. I worried about the standard and creating a a loophole for other developers, and not to paint developers in one tone, but the soonest that you crack a window, the whole, garage doors are open and everything is out, and it feels like the rules that we sort of try to establish for using our limited resources, then everything is at play. And that is really a concern to me, and it's less about your organization, is more about many of the other ones. That is one concern. I felt like if we can hear from the applicant, the RDA could hear from the applicant as far as maybe other things that they could potentially do, to offset some of this if they cannot make it happen. Willing to see that. I also worried about the optics of a west side development versus a downtown development funded from the RDA. That the CRA. The CRA will have a lower standard for a west side project, and ultimately the optics are less important, but certainly there are important to consider. Again, I personally am willing to entertain some other options, but I want the applicant to really help make the case a bit easier to make sure that the precedent is acknowledged, and at the same time ensuring that we can make a good argument on why, if we're going to make an exception to this rule.
Dugan, and then I have a comment as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Pulley. And I was kind of thinking the same lines, and I appreciate your comments here. And looking at these is, I'm going to separate the two. Could we approve it for the 800 West property, the Stanbridge property, and then we have our next CRA's July meeting, and we'd have more, probably get an answer on at least on the Energy Star on the other property, the Maltaire property. So
I think the Maltaire is the one that they're ready to build.
yeah, I know that's
East,
that's the one that they're asking there. But on the Stanbridge, they can still now continue because it is design side of the house. So they continue working on that one. But we have another month to get on the Maltaire project. So that's my question is, can we make a motion to do it that way, delay one and approve the other one? I'm just kind of looking at the council.
I think we legally can. I think it would impair the developer's timeline.
I mean, we would hope to be able to have the funding released for both the 2.1 million, so we could use it towards building the Maltaire, and then once Maltaire is done, then start immediately working on the second development, Stanbridge at 8th West and 3rd North. Stanbridge is not as far along. We're still working on the design phase, and so we're not to the point of having that requirement met, but we are agreeing to meet that requirement that's required for the second development at Stanbridge.
So I think that what you're saying is that if we approve the funding for the one that you're still working on the design, it wouldn't change anything. You don't necessarily need the money for that one immediately. What the Board Member Dugan is offering is releasing the money for the one, but not the other one until we worked out some of those questions. And does it make any difference, or you prefer to hold both of them?
It would make a difference, because if we're able to get access to the full 2.1 million, that then means we don't have to then borrow as much money from other sources that are at a much higher rate, right, to keep the interest costs lower for both developments overall.
You're saying the full 2.1 million for the first project?
No,
I think
just like having access to the full 2.1 million at the beginning to work on the first project, and then move that to the second project also once
Mr. Chair,
the project is complete.
Let's let Tracy.
Point out, just want to point out that the term sheet is not structured that way. The term sheet is based on, separates the two projects, and so certain conditions have to be met for each project for the funding to be released. So we wouldn't be releasing the full 2.1 for one project. It's divvied up into $850,000 for Maltair and 1.25 for the Stanbridge project.
Okay.
It seems to me that just based on some of the questions here, I'm not sure that I guess there is a preference from the CRA, but I'm not sure that we even have consensus here to release all the funds. I would love to hear from others.
I think I'll just share what I would be comfortable doing today, which would be to move forward with the term sheet as proposed, which does not release the full 2.1 today. It's the 850 for the one project, and the other, I'm comfortable waiving the all electric requirement for the Maltair project. I would like to keep the Energy Star requirement, and if it turns out that is, then the reason for that is that one's actually the one that affects the tenant's energy bill every month, and we want this to be an affordable project, so we want those maybe a little bit more expensive up front, but less expensive every month to operate things in there. So I think for the sake of whoever's gonna, not the tenant, the homeowner in this case, I think I would like to keep that one. And then if there's some outstanding reason why that's actually just not possible to do for a townhouse, understanding that this is one of the first townhouse projects that we will have asked for this on, I'm open to you coming back and saying at a later date, look, we worked hard to do this. This is how far we got, and here's why. But I don't want to approve that yet today. I'm also open to us saying we're not yet ready to do anything, and we want to sit down more and wait, because it does sound like there's some outstanding things.
I'll add that all of our previous single-family homes and our apartment building that we built, they met the 90% Energy Star in the past. So I think that we'll probably be able to do that for this development.
My assumption would be you'd be able to. It just would take you a little bit longer, but I feel like we can approve the funding and just. Is that one something that could be like a post-performance, that they have to come in with that?
We'd want verification of that before we release the funds. Yeah.
Okay.
So we would approve the funding for the 800 West project.
We'd be
Say
approving
it
the
again.
whole term sheet right now,
Okay.
with the only exception to what's proposed would be not yet approving the waiver of the Energy Star requirement. Or if it's better for the applicant, I guess we just wait till next month and have a little more time to work on this.
I mean, if there's an opportunity of being able to release the full amount of funding, that would really help, just to lower, those costs of the lines of credit that we'd have to use rather than breaking them up.
I don't think that'll be possible today. I don't know that it'd be possible next month either, but I guess.
Let's say could get their Energy Star by next month.
No, because the other one is tied to the second development that's not yet ready to break ground.
I mean, but if that's not an option, I mean, I think we'd go forward with the 850, being released first on this first project, if that's not an option.
That's what Mr. Chair, that's what I was sort of trying to get to earlier. Is certainly I know why you're here and why you would prefer, but just based on the conversation, it seems like we might not get to that place. But the option on the table was to, what it seemed very clear, maybe from this conversation, was to release one, and maybe either punt the conversation about how we can work on the energy requirement. Or Board Member Mano mentioned he's willing to entertain one or the other of the requirements, not all of them.
Right.
But maybe that is too in-depth for the conversation right now, and we can punt that to the next meeting, and hopefully there's a little time for the CRA and your team to. But I will be willing to support the one project right now.
I'm going to be the dissenting voice here and say that I'm ready to go on all of it. This is the only proposal that has come across our desks that satisfies our request for family size, for ownership, and for workforce. Furthermore, we are getting 10,000 units on the west side that will be at lowest 80% AMI, forever changing the demographics. If we do not create opportunities for workforce to own and stay on the west side, our west side has a character shift and a gentrification and a displacement that is terminal. I get this energy thing. I want to pursue the Energy Star. I think since 2023 we have been talking about this. My predecessor, James Rogers, set up the West Side Community Initiative for projects exactly like this, and I think the precedent needs to be clarified. The only reason we would do this is because it is 100% being offered for 80% for workforce housing, and it is homeownership, and it is family size. I've seen no other developer ever coming in, checking off that many boxes, and having this one thing out
I think
of sync.
just one.
So for me,
it's not 100% 80%. It's not all 80% AMI, right?
Only 20% is 20% of the units are at 80% AMI, but all of the units have to be at 120% AMI and below.
which is workforce housing.
Yeah, I mean,
So for me, this one checks as many boxes as I need. I agree with I don't want to set a precedent that other people are like, oh, this is an easy threshold. So, finding other contractual ways, converting it from, raising the interest rate by 2 points or something, and making it a loan or something like that if they don't achieve it by a certain date. But I really think this is one of those abundance things where we as progressives are shooting ourselves in the foot.
on the note of precedent, because it sounds like that's what we're all worried about, I just want to state for the record, my support of this project and of the way that we funded this project is because of our conversation about how to get affordable for sale projects, and that we really haven't seen that. This is not the way that I would support projects in the future. Once, this to me, it's like we're really asking people to kind of invent the wheel, at least in our market, for the affordable for sale. So my support of this, and if whatever waivers we end up going with, is because it's new. It's not something that I feel like the board should support in the future for projects like this. So for me, this should not be precedent setting in any way, because it didn't come through the NOFA. It was a direct allocation because we were so intent on getting affordable for sale. And so I think, at least that's my perspective on that, this should not set a precedent. Okay, I guess I'm ready for a motion if someone's ready to make one.
I'm going to attempt one. I move that the board adopt the resolution adopting the term sheet to allocate $2.1 million in financial assistance to NeighborWorks Salt Lake for the Maltair Lanes and Stanbridge projects, with an expectation that an Energy Star rating would be achieved, terms delegated to staff. Is that acceptable, Mark? I made Mark grimace. It was not acceptable.
I would second that, including the expectation and the noting the concerns about precedent that I think we've covered very well.
Oh, is it on? With respect to the terms delegated to staff, I think some more specificity about what is intended would be helpful here.
Can we say with a deadline for achieving that as designated by staff, or
Yeah, Danny, thanks.
Sorry. If I may try to paraphrase what I think you're saying. Recommend approval of the term sheet for the funding for the projects. You are willing to waive the sustainability requirement, however, with the expectation that the Maltair project will come back with an attempt to meet the Energy Star rating, and that the other project will still meet the sustainability policy requirements as stated in the term sheet.
Yes.
So really what we're adding to the term sheet is just the expectation that the developer will come back with an attempt running concurrently with the project to see if the project can meet that Energy Star rating. Is that correct?
I mean, quick question. I mean, attempt, it's not it. I don't like the word attempt really there because anything is an attempt. Could we put some number to that attempt that is not that loose? I'm willing
within
to.
6 months,
I'm
or?
willing to. The reason why we supported this project is in so many ways a first and so many dreams for the community and the applicants' track record in the neighborhoods but I also really care about the precedent and that to me I'm concerned. So if we the applicant mentioned that their previous projects met the 90%. So if we can put that on the term sheet, then
Is that what the Energy Star rating is? Is the 90%? That's the standard. Okay.
It's in the top 10 percentile of buildings in that building class in terms of energy use. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah.
So do you want a timeline for it, like within 1 calendar year, within 6 months, or?
I will be okay with it. I mean, I would let staff give us the direction on that.
I think how we can maybe structure it is, it sounds like you want them to meet that, and if they don't meet that, we will come back and propose a potential waiver to the Energy Star piece. Is that accurate?
That matches what I'm hoping for.
I'll be supportive of it.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify real quick. I've been following the conversation, and I really do appreciate, I stand with Councilmember Petro. I think this achieves the economic product that we're trying to create more so. I want to understand, we will release the full funds. Is that correct?
How the term sheet is structured, the release of funds are based on each separate project meeting a set of conditions. So each project will need to make sure all their financing is placed, all the permits have been received, the project is ready to be built, they have a construction contract ready. So the first piece, $850,000, once they meet those conditions, $850,000 will be released for Maltair. And then they would have to do the same thing, have building permits, financing, construction not ready for Stanbridge, and when that's met with Stanbridge, 1.25 will be released.
But they don't need to come back to us for approval because we are approving both projects right now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, can I throw a wrinkle to the whole
Yes.
thing? So, I mean, I like, I mean, this is, negotiation, it's kind of fun now. So the 100% electric building operation seems to be one of the biggest pieces just because of redesigning all project and sending it to an architect and cables, pipes, I don't know. I don't even know how all these things work, but I sort of have a general idea. Could we ask the applicant if they're willing to entertain to some of the appliances are electric, and maybe they get to decide either they are fully electric, either the water heater, either what is the name?
HVAC.
Furnace.
The furnace,
Yeah.
or the stove, and it's almost like I've been looking at those myself to try to upgrade and to get some of that efficiency, and some of them are becoming very affordable these days. So I'm willing to entertain the motion as is, if the applicant is willing to come back to the RDA and maybe
The hardest thing
commit to that.
to not do electric is the furnace. The rest are fairly easy to
I think
achieve.
we can commit to doing all of the other appliances, getting that 90% going electric on those, but not the HVAC, because that's already been, we've already built.
That is even a better thought that I thought. So that gives me a peace of mind that, but the HVAC, all the appliances are going to be electric, and then we meet the 90% Energy Star score. I'm happy with that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the term sheet with the exception on the Maltair project for all electric, but only for the furnace, to allow gas for the furnace, and not to approve the Energy Star and ask them to come back if they need that exception at another time. Is that clear?
I think as long as CRA staff is clear, that's the most important part. And it looks like they're tracking, so.
Petro, Board Member Petro, are you okay with that motion? Board Member Petro? Are you okay with that being your motion?
We're just
Oh, you're conferring.
we're just deliberating if we want to. Like, it feels like we got a better deal than the Energy Star. So, do we want to include the Energy Star pursuit for precedent's sake, or just go with what we've got? Include. Okay. Okay. So it's
I
included.
think so. I want to know if that is achievable. So like I want to know if they can't achieve it, then we come back and learn. But
But I think, I mean, that's what I intended with my question, and I felt like the answer was yes.
it sounds like it should be achievable.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so and Board Member Wharton, are you still second on that?
I'm still a second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, we are behind on time. We did do the closed session first, but the next item is an informational update on the Eccles Theater year-end report. Danny Walls, Matt Castillo, and Angela Vanderwall, the Eccles Theater General Manager, are here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Angela and Matt take a seat at the table, I just wanted to introduce this. Most of you obviously know that the CRA developed the Eccles Theater, which opened in 2016. That was done in partnership with Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, a combination of obviously amending our CBD project area, creating a new Block 70 project area to help provide the tax increment to fund the project, which the agency bonded for. The city, the county, and the agency all continue to share ownership and represent our particular interests on the board that oversees the theater. However, the Salt Lake County Arts and Culture Division, Matt and Angela in front of you, are responsible for the operating and programming. So given our vested interest in the theater, we thought it'd be good for the board to have a presentation of what the county provides as the annual report on the theater. And that'll give a lot of information on the level of activity and events that happen at the theater. And I think of particular interest to the board, what some of those partnerships are and programs that Angela and Matt and the rest of their staff provide. So I think we have a presentation teed up. I will sit back down and turn over to Matt and Angela, and thank you both very much for being here.
Thank you, Danny.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Danny. And again, I'm Matt Castillo. I'm the Division Director for Salt Lake County Arts and Culture.
I'm Angela Vanderwell, Associate Division Director, Salt Lake County Arts and Culture, and Eccles Theater General Manager.
So we'll kind of be passing the microphone back and forth a little bit, but not too much. Thank you again to Chair Mano and to the entire board for us today to present on Eccles Theater. We always love the opportunity to talk about the great things that are happening there and answer any questions or concerns you might have. Again, this is an overview of the 2024 fiscal and calendar year because we are operated by the county, which is on a calendar year, fiscal year. That's how we report out. So first we'll start with just a quick overview. You can advance to the next slide. We are going to start with a very quick overview, then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the various community programs that we run across the entire building. We'll spend some time talking about the numbers, the budget results, and activation results, and then we'll talk a little bit about attendance and economic impact at the end. So just really quickly here, this is a very, very high-level snapshot of our three kind of primary presenting programs. We have Zions Bank, Broadway at the Eccles, which presents our Broadway series. Last year we had 11 season titles, 122 performances. I won't read all the numbers, I promise, but close to 250,000 attendees. We're really excited. This was in 2025, but we just closed out a 6-week run of Wicked. Many of our runs end up breaking all sorts of records because Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County and the whole region just absolutely love Broadway. And Wicked was no exception. We were the highest grossing run of Wicked of any touring season for Broadway across America. The last was held by Chicago in 2019. So that just shows you how successful that particular run was. We also have the Live at the Eccles series with close to, or a little bit more than 150,000 attendees in 2024. This brings all sorts of entertainment from musicians to lectures, children's programming, lots of different things to the Eccles through our Live at the Eccles series. And then we also have the Regent Street Black Box, which is our primary performing space for community-based groups. And so we had 94 performances, more than 6,000 attendees there. And across all of this, we had close to 45,000 new ticket buyers across 2024. So we continue to engage new audiences and increase our reach, which is a huge focus of the work that we do, which leads us to our community engagement programming. And I'll pass it to Angela to cover that.
Next slide, please. Okay, so our Eccles Theater Arts Accessibility Program, Arts for All, provides 1% of available tickets to income-qualified residents in both Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. Our Arts for All funding comes from a dedicated 50-cent per ticket fee included on every ticket sold in Delta Hall. And those funds that are collected are utilized to purchase and distribute program tickets, support the direct administration and coordination of the program, and allow for enhanced outreach experiences like Beyond the Curtain and Bosis in Bloom. Last year, we worked with Salt Lake, Granite, Canyons, and Jordan School Districts and other groups like the Other Side Academy, Utah Refugees, and Seniors Out and Proud, along with many qualifying families and individuals to make the arts accessible to 1,884 qualified members of the community who received tickets. Next slide, please. And we could not do what we do at the Eccles Theater without our Arts and Cultural Patron Services program, which is 361 volunteer ushers strong. Last year, the Eccles Theater received 24,987 hours of generous support from our dedicated front of house staff, who worked an average of 40 shifts and 128 hours over the course of the year, more than double the national average, and we are just incredibly grateful for our patron services volunteers. Next slide, please. Our Eccles Theater Technical Outreach Program hosted 14 technical theater experiences, including workshops, show shadows, master classes, discussions, and tours throughout 2024, reaching 175 high school and university students interested in technical theater. Our goal for 2025 is to double the number of students we reach through this program. Next slide. And our community engagement. Eccles Presents, the engagements we present through Eccles Presents are free and open to the public. Through these outreach events, we engaged 5,000 members of our community and supported 50 artists. Events included Steppin' on Main every Friday night through the summer on the front steps of the theater, our Salt Lake Speaks poetry events in the Grand Lobby and on McCarthy Plaza, concerts like Salt Lake Beats celebrating new and emerging artists in Bosis and Bloom, which we launched last year as a bilingual concert celebrating the Latin community with Mexican-Dominican artist Ambar Lucid as a headliner and local Mexican-American artist at Sani. This past Friday, we hosted our first Salt Lake Speaks event of the summer in the Grand Lobby. And we had a poet who was participating in the event who offered an unexpected thank you to the theater, to administrators and policymakers behind the scenes for prioritizing these events that are free and open to the community and that support the local artists. That was very unexpected and very much appreciated, especially at a time that we continue to experience broad cuts to funding within the arts community.
All right, so next slide. So now we'll take a little bit of time to discuss the budget results and the activation numbers. So a lot of numbers coming your way. We'll be talking about building and site, and just as a quick kind of refresher or primer, so building and site are the two reporting units within Eccles Theater. So building is composed of Delta Hall, which is the primary 2,500 seat theater where we present Broadway and Live at the Eccles. And then site is our community spaces like the Regent Street Black Box, the North Lobby, McCarthy Plaza, and so forth. So first we will focus on building, which again is Delta Hall, the rehearsal room, and Miller Lounge. So next slide, please. We have a lot of numbers here. The full report was included, I believe, in your informational packet, so please take some time to go through that and let us know if you have any questions. I will just hit the highlights today and just talk about what an amazing success the building reporting unit was for 2024. We had our highest ever net income, which resulted in our highest ever distribution to the owners, UPACA, through UPACA, which is Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County, and the CRA, which goes to cover things like debt responsibilities and so forth. So this was really exciting. We had about $5 million in net income. Last year was really a banner year for us with the number of programs that we had, Book of Mormon. We were also selling really successfully for our 24-25 season, which included Wicked, not Hamilton, but Les Mis, and many other really exciting series. Our Live at the Eccles series also had some really great success there as well. So really excited to see that. And of course, we have to thank our Eccles Theater team, which does a great job of operating the theater and making sure it stays a first-class space. Next slide, please. So this next slide shows the income distribution. So again, this is according to the ownership agreement across the three partners and how the net income is distributed. So we take the first $1 million and put that into a capital reserve account that helps to fund future capital projects to make sure the building is maintained. We are currently carrying about a $7 million balance in that, and we do have a 30-year facility maintenance plan, and so that will help us cover things like when the roof needs to be replaced and when the HVAC needs to be replaced and so forth. And then you can see from there, there's a formula as to how the remainder gets distributed. And so pending the results of the final financial statement audit, which will be done at the end of this month, actually, the city and CRA, we need to update that to the new name. We still have the old name there, but just over $2.5 million will be distributed there, and then $1.6 million to the county. I will just mention one thing. The financial results of the building portion of Eccles Theater is mostly driven by our Broadway at the Eccles series. And so we don't necessarily expect that every year we're going to see a significant increase. The Broadway series, in terms of the types of titles that tour from year to year, tends to go on a 3 to 5 year cycle. So we are expecting another really strong year this year, but then as we look out into the future, we might see a little bit of a dip there. So we certainly expect to continue seeing positive financial results, but I also don't want you to think we're going to be coming every year with a $5 million net income result just because of the way that cycle works. And then the last area here is the building activity report. So this shows just how many different types of events were booked in all of the different building spaces over the course of the year. So within Delta Hall, our performance activity was about 228 performances across the year.
Switch to the
and
next
then you
slide.
can see a number of, thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So yes, you can see here broken down by quarter and different spaces and different types of uses, how the building was activated across the year. One of the things that we track across all of Salt Lake County Arts and Culture and all of the arts centers that we operate, which includes, in addition to Eccles Theater, includes all of the counties owned and operated art centers is what we call venue utilization. And so we look at the number of days where something is happening in the venue. That could be a performance, a rehearsal, a tech day. We don't include things like maintenance or internal holds. That's a really important benchmark for us that we compare against across the industry. And typically 60 to 70% is considered full capacity. Anything above that is considered overcapacity, and you tend to have issues with building maintenance and being able to present a presentable building at that point. For Delta Hall, we are right around that range of between 50 and 60%, and so we're staying very, very busy, particularly in comparison to industry standards for Broadway presenting type of venues. And again, we do see some fluctuation. You can see there over the previous 3 years. This year we were at 56%, last year at 41%, and 2022 at 53%. I believe this year we're actually above 60% because of the number of weeks of Broadway that we have and other types of things. So just another kind of factor to share there. I'm going to keep moving along, but of course, if there's any questions, please stop me at any point. So next slide. So we will now look at the site finances and activity. And so site, again, is the other reporting unit within Eccles Theater, which includes all of our really community-focused spaces, which are for community arts organizations and other community presenting organizations to present their work, which includes Regent Street Black Box, the McCarthy Plaza, the O.C. Tanner Lounge, and the North Lobby. Next slide. So the operating budget, the finances for Eccles site are a little bit different because it is really meant for the community. This is a subsidized space, and so we primarily rent this space to small arts organizations, and we even have a resident program where we provide these spaces at a heavily discounted rate, which spurs activity and brings that type of activity to the core. So because of that, we do receive funding from the CRA to help cover the costs of operating the space annually. So you can see here, the bottom line, the revenue less expense, shows the amount that is covered by the CRA each year. In 2024, we were budgeted to receive essentially up to $509,000, and we actually spent just under that, so $507,000. And so we worked very hard to make sure we're staying within that. Of course, balancing the needs of the theater with also making sure that we're spurring utilization and helping serve the local arts community. Next slide, please. So this next slide is the site activity report, which also shows all of the various activity that happened by quarter last year by different performance types and across all of the different site spaces. We do also show utilization here for Regent Street Black Box. This was a space that was heavily impacted by the pandemic and really saw a very slow recovery. So you can see in 2022, we were just at 25% utilization. And so we've worked very hard by developing lots of relationships with local organizations, developing a resident program where we actually have a long-term agreement with various organizations to present out of Regent Street Black Box and develop audiences there, and other types of programming that have helped with that. We're very pleased with the results, but know we have some additional work to do. In 2023, we were 45% utilization. Last year at 48% utilization, and this year we actually are projected to exceed 60% utilization. So we're really excited about the work that's been happening there. And then next slide, I will pass it back over to Angela to close out the presentation.
We're almost done. So the Americans for the Arts, Arts and Economic Prosperity Study that was conducted in 2023. Oh, can you advance to the next slide, please? Thank you. The study was conducted in 2023, and it generated the following findings. Roughly 60% of attendees are local, and 40% are non-local, with an average spend within the local economy of $42.27 per attendee. As you can see, when you look at total building and total site, the Eccles Theater saw 436,975 attendees across both spaces, which translates into a 18.5 million in spending within our local economy. Next slide, please. Locally, we're primarily serving Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, and Utah counties. And the final slide. And we also have a strong regional presence with the bulk of our patrons coming from Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, California, and Arizona. I think over.
All right, yeah. So that's the conclusion of our presentation. I just want to close by saying I think these numbers really show how loved this is by the local community, but also what a draw it is regionally, that we see folks all across the state, all across the Intermountain West, and even beyond coming to attend events at Eccles Theater. So we greatly appreciate your support, and we also welcome you to join us. Like Angela mentioned, we have Steppin' on Main, which is a summer series. Every Friday night we do something free in the lobby. It's a way to it started actually as a partnership with Open Streets, and so we're during the month of June, it overlaps nicely there, but we run this program actually through September, so welcome you to come on a Friday night and come just enjoy some great free programming. So any questions or other comments, and you can advance to the last slide now, or actually close the presentation.
Thank you. That was really great. Board members? Lopez Chavez.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And I participated in many different events at the theater, ranging from the Black Box to a Broadway show. And it really is just a family-friendly space, which I really appreciate the activation on our Main Street. My question, I didn't hear this mentioned and I didn't see it in the report, but if I'm not mistaken, there were some public benefits associated to the Eccles Theater. Are you overseeing those public benefits? My understanding is that there's reduced tickets and or free tickets that were in question and have been in question from different community organizations. And so I would love to understand if that's evolved or not the case any longer.
Yes. Yeah, I believe you're referring to the Arts for All program. And so that is something that was included in all of the founding documents for the theater as a way, it was referred to as an arts accessibility program, but we brand it as the Arts for All program. So it is funded by a 50-cent fee for every ticket that's sold. That then goes into a pot, and we have a dedicated staff member that develops relationships with all sorts of organizations, but then also makes it available to the general public. Anyone that receives one of those tickets does have to be income qualified through, and we have a number of kind of criteria for that. And so that's where we've been able to distribute thousands of tickets annually for that. But we're always looking for ways to improve that program and make sure that we're getting those tickets where
That's
they need
great.
to go.
Do you have that allotted amount in your fund?
Yes, it's budgeted annually. If you want to, Scott, if you can pull up that slide again. It's in the slide deck, the Arts for All program.
I may have missed it. So
yeah, and it's a line item that's in the building side of the budget, not the site side of the budget.
Okay.
The other thing to note, and I just can share this because I'm on the board along with Danny, the Arts for All program has evolved over the years because when it was first introduced and kind of focused on a certain number of tickets for every show, they went unused. And so the board has been working with the staff of the Arts and Culture Department at the county to figure out ways to have the most tickets being used. That was the board's priority, is how can you get the most tickets used? And so to Matt's point, they've actually hired a staff person to focus on building those relationships and figuring out, based on the events that are coming, what are the kinds of organizations that can be worked with to maximize the impact of those discounted tickets. So they work with like the content that's being brought to the theater and make sure that there are maybe key audiences that might not otherwise be interested in other content. So.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for explaining that. What would be, I guess, I hear this a lot, is just, I think folks just don't know how it's evolved over time. And I think one of the best things is exposing our youth especially to that. And so it's something that I know has been brought up to me on like occasions. I'll have a conversation and people bring that up. Were there any other public benefits associated? And the question before it slips my mind was, you said the general public. Is the general public anyone in Utah, or is the general public Salt Lake City centric?
So for the Arts for All program is for, they have to be a resident of Salt Lake County and they have to be income qualified. The other public benefits would mostly be, I believe, associated with how we operate site, right? And so for the Regent Street Black Box, for instance, we have a resident program, and that's particularly for locally based arts organizations. And so they have to be providing a majority of their season locally. And so through that, we provide discounted rental rates, support with marketing, and other types of support that really helps support the arts organizations that are then supporting the community in that way.
Thank you so much.
Puy and then Dugan.
It's funny, I have the Arts for All website pulled up because I wanted to ask some questions. So thank you, Member Lopez Chavez, for some of those. It saved me some words. But in the past, I had some interesting experiences with some of the county facilities, and mostly because schools and teachers in my district will reach out to me, telling me that, a facility, Tracy Avery, for example, couldn't figure out how to, accommodate, the pricing and, for the kids in a given school. And on top of that, after making some calls, they figured it out. But the other barrier to access was just being able to fundraise for the bus, right? And because the parents have to actually fundraise the money to actually pay for the bus. The school district will not really do that. And so there are so many barriers to accessing these incredible facilities and the content that they have. So I hope that it seems like the county is paying extra attention into this right now, and I love that. So I would love to get some feedback of what other barriers that may be beyond maybe your statutory requirement, but if you identify some other barriers, I would love to figure that out. It was easy for us to, pitch in and connect some people to pay for those buses, but some people don't know that there are maybe resources out there. So I would love for those tickets not to go unused, and I would love for members of our communities, especially kids in our community, to access these events.
Well, what you said is exactly right. I mean, that was one of the early barriers that we ran into with Arts for All, was the bus. And so we quickly found a way to have that included by coming to the board and asking for approval to expand the program to cover an expense like that. So we're able to support that.
Yeah. Please share with us when there's events or opportunities for us to share with our own members of the community. So thank you.
Yeah, we'd absolutely love to do that, and would love to have any additional conversations. One other thing I'll mention is that just transportation in general can be a big challenge for us. And so one of the things we're actively in discussion with UTA right now is ticket is fair. And so any ticket for Arctics becomes a ticket. Obviously there's financial considerations are the biggest consideration there. So when we get to that point, we're not quite there in terms of our discussions with UTA, but we'd love to maybe brainstorm with you all about how to make that happen, because I think that would make a huge difference in folks being able to access these types of programs.
Dugan?
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the numbers. Talk about utilization. No, there it is. You talked about utilization also, and appreciate that 60% number. I was always thinking, oh, wow, that's low. But I can understand that there's a lot of business maintenance that has to take place in between sets and stuff. So, but I also see a lot of trajectory of numbers from 22 to 23 to 24 on not only utilization, but the attendees. So, and the questions we've been asked here is, it's a great program. It's like there's not a bad seat in the house. And, wherever you sit, you got a great seat. And it's always, it's wonderful to go there. And just from the day you walk, from the time you walk into the door to the time you walk out, it's wonderful. So I appreciate all the effort there, and the numbers here, and the focus on back to, giving back to the community. Even though those numbers are low, they're still impactful. The 175 of the students in the tech side of the house, if you double that, that's a lot of kids. And everyone in school is a kid. So it's a lot of great youth going in and seeing what can be done. So I appreciate all the effort and the work. Thank you.
Petro?
Hi. So we have I have two separate trains of thought.
Okay, we are an hour, nearing an hour behind, so.
We have 80% fill occupancy for the live. We had 50 something for, at those rates, this is profitable. It is doing what we need it to do, or do we need to work on driving traffic still, or are you all able to maintain profitability at those levels?
I would say for Broadway, we are right where we need to be and then some. So benchmark for season subscription renewals is 80%. That's in industry. We had a 92% renewal rate on our season subscriptions in 2024. This year, we just closed out, we had 88% renewal. That's a base, that's the base economic driver for the theater is those season subscribers, and then we turn over into single tickets for Broadway. And then the occupancy at where it is, I don't think we really, we're looking at more weeks potentially of Broadway, maybe, but
we're
where
safe.
we need to be. Okay. For both Broadway and live, and the only area that we're working to grow on is Regent Street Black Box. Yeah.
And I imagine audience development for that is more difficult because it's smaller companies renting the space, and I once developed audiences for something like that. It's a difficult task.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're always looking at ways with the Broadway, well, really with all these programs to diversify and increase, the number of times you repeat and you come back to the theater, but also, there's many folks across the whole county, city, and beyond that have an experience that we are trying to reach. But certainly financially, we're in a great place, right? We're covering all our costs. We're able to put $1 million into the capital reserve account to cover future costs. And so from a financial perspective and just kind of a nuts and bolts perspective, it's working very, very well. Yeah.
And then my other one is on the Arts for All. I love that we go through schools, but especially for immigrant families or people who are experiencing a new culture here, oftentimes giving a young person an experience where we don't invite the family unit in creates either isolative or it deprives the art form of a power. Are we now, when I did Salty Cricket, I was the beneficiary. We went to see Finding Neverland, thanks to you all. But do we have strategies for making sure that it's not just young people, but full family involvement, and we're not depriving the art form of its power?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will need to follow up on that specifically with the school partnerships that we have. I do know that we work a lot with other organizations where it is the entire family, but I will definitely make a note and follow up on the school piece because I think that's a very well made point. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that report and the hard work that you're doing in bringing arts to our city. The next item, let's move on to item number 4, which is a straw poll for ballpark activation. I think, Danny, are you going to give us a quick introduction to this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. I'll be real quick because I know we're behind schedule. This is a request by staff for a straw poll to authorize $75,000 from the State Street Strategic Intervention Program funds. This would be to engage a professional services agreement with an event producer to activate the ballpark stadium. Prior to last week, we had intended to fund this through our program income fund. However, because we're approaching year end, we've had some higher than usual property insurance and property management expenses. So we wanted to ensure that we had money within our funds to do this and not run too tight. So even if the board approves this $75,000, that would still remain $6.5 million in our strategic intervention funds. I think we'd be more than covered, but we felt it was appropriate to ask for a straw poll to authorize this funding as we wrap up those contracts and get them ready for execution. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Danny. I appreciate you bringing this to us. And board members, I know that my constituents and neighbors in the ballpark, our community, are really interested in getting activation events as soon as possible. So I would love your support in this.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I would love to support this. I mean, there's a lot of stake here, and we really need to step up. So I appreciate this proposal in front of us. I would like the CRA to track some measures, what is the impact of this, much like we probably did with open streets. I wonder if there's some metrics that we can still to use for this, to know if the money is worth it, or maybe is worth it in another way to use in a different year, but I will support it.
We can do that.
Danny, is that something that you think?
Yeah, as part of the agreement, we have a baseline of what the event producer is expected to do as part of receiving the $75,000, but we also have the opportunity, and they anticipate doing events above and beyond that. So we're happy to come back and report to the board what has been activated as per this contract and let you know what's done.
Great. Is there anyone willing to make a straw poll?
I would like to propose a straw poll for the use of $75,000 from the State Street Fund Strategic Intervention Program to approve a professional services agreement to activate the Smiths Ballpark Stadium from July to December of 2025.
Second.
You want to understand the straw poll? Okay, that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Executive Director Rachel, does your team
Apologies,
have
I think we missed the straw poll language.
The straw poll.
My apologies. So the straw poll is to use $75,000 from the State Street Fund Strategic Intervention Program to approve a professional service agreement to activate the Smiths Ballpark Stadium from July to December 2025.
Great. So that was the straw poll, and it was unanimous. Okay. So no executive director announcements, vice chair, no chair or vice chair announcements. Danny, no announcements from staff this month. No written briefings or consent agenda. So we are adjourned, and we will be coming to work session right this moment.
Okay, we can take 5 minutes.
Okay.
5 minutes.